Welcome to Sage Women, the podcast for midlife ladies navigating perimenopause, menopause, and healthy aging. I'm Melanie White, and each week I talk with experts and women sharing real stories, practical insights, and smart tips to thrive through this stage of life and beyond. Hey, it's Melanie White here on the Sage Women podcast, and I'm really pleased to have Amanda Kube on our show today of Wellness with Amanda. And we'll be talking about some of the mental health challenges that women face in regional areas, some of the gaps, and also some of the opportunities. Amanda, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thanks, Mel. Lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's so good when we catch up. And I know we've had you on the podcast a long time ago, but so much has changed since then. And maybe we could start with a little bit of background about you and what you're doing at the moment.
Yeah, sure. I'll do the background first. So mostly in my career, I've been an educator. So I've been working in schools and in adult learning settings. And most of my time has been in rural and remote parts of Australia, way out in the sticks in outback Queensland and in a remote part of Victoria. Some people wouldn't believe that Victoria has an outback, but I can tell you it certainly does. So I've been in rural and remote areas in my teaching profession most of my life. In the last 10 years, though, I've been developing and working on my own wellness teaching business, where I work using coaching and massage to help women in midlife manage anxiety.
Wow, it's a rich history, and I'm hearing the education part. I'm hearing the very remote and regional experience, and then also the midlife anxiety. There's a lot to unpack here. Where do you think we should start?
Yeah, I think it would be interesting, maybe the idea of how anxiety has really started to become such a forefront discussion around women in midlife. So that part is interesting for me because it's sort of where I'm currently at now.
Okay, and perhaps there's some backstory to that. There's definitely some statistics and information on mental health in rural, remote, regional areas anyway. We know that there are generally greater mental health challenges, possibly due to isolation, loneliness, and the hardship of living on the land. And then now what you're talking about too, perhaps is an overlay on that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the interplay between those two things.
Yeah, I think from my own experience and working with women and in all those different fields in teaching and in my wellness business, the message has come across very clearly from women that isolation and living in remote areas means limited access to support and a sense that those issues that maybe could be dealt with more quickly and straightforwardly in a more built-up area, like in a city, doesn't happen. And there's that sense of disconnect for women. So, and that, I think, has led to a whole raft of issues with women not being able to then access the support that they need to address issues to do with anxiety, and the isolation just can add to that.
Yeah, there's a lot to think about there. And I'm wondering how things have changed in the last few years. I mean, I think before this recording, we were talking a bit about COVID and how that's changed things. And is there increased connectivity through social media and telehealth and Zoom meetings like we're on now, or has that really made any difference?
I can speak to my own experience in a remote part of Victoria in the last 10 years during that time. And yes, is the short answer. It has made a difference, and it has also opened up what's possible for women to access good support and good help during times of challenge that wasn't there previously, because it would involve having to drive, a number of hours to a location, and those resources not even available because everyone's using them in the cities. So what has happened in my own experience when I was having a significant mental health challenge during COVID in a remote and isolated area, it took a long time, but I eventually was able to access some incredible support and assistance with counselling and with other support people. And it was really, Zoom was my savior, really, because I was able to access those people when I needed them in those times of difficulty and have ongoing connection. Some people think that online connections aren't that meaningful, but I can attest to the depth of connection that you can build with someone through making use of these services of being able to do Zoom calls and seeing someone and talking through in the moment and in the safety and security of your own home too, which is another element that can come in with issues of anxiety as well. So yeah, that certainly has been my experience, and that is played out when I talk to clients and other people in my friendship network as well.
It's really interesting. So it really has opened up opportunities for people to connect and get help. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in what that support is. Like, what do you think women need? Women in regional areas, remote areas, what kinds of support are they looking for? Is it simply connection? Is it professional help? What might be the gamut of things or the nutshell perhaps of things?
Yeah, gosh, that's pretty broad because it is massive and it's so different for different women. For some, it is social connection because that's been lost, and that can be lost if anxiety is combined with depression and that withdrawal from your connections. So there is that element of needing to find a community that is beyond just where you're living to connect with. But professionally, I think is one of the big game changers, to get some professional assistance to help identify what are the key issues and then refer on to things. So GPs, again, play a critical role. And in rural and remote areas, they are absolutely, like, there's just no words to describe how critical they are. And when it falls down, it really falls down. So to then be able to get your mental health care plan and your discounted sessions through your GP, and then to find a suitable counsellor that you can work with for professional help, that's all takes time, and it takes a combination of that person being well supported amongst their friends and family, but also well supported by their GP and those referring networks.
There's lots of moving parts.
Yeah, for sure. That's so true. And I think as I've been reflecting upon our discussion today, one of the things that really struck me as I was imagining what we might cover was one of the big things, I think, for women when they're having real struggles with anxiety and with mental health is kind of that sense of futility, of like, oh, well, this is what I've been dealing with for so long. Just suck it up, get on with it, because that is often the, I won't say the outback way, but it's often a little bit of a badge of honor to keep going when the going gets tough. And I think one of the key things for women particularly is to acknowledge a sense that they deserve better, that there is a need that they have, that it is their right to have it met, and to keep not fighting, but to keep striving for that, even when it feels too hard. Yeah. So that to me is another element, that sense of, oh well, I'll just put up with it because I always have, and there are other people more needier than me. And so that's kind of a message I would love, that I try to work with my clients is, yeah, you deserve this. You deserve this care. You deserve this support of the sessions we work on. And you deserve all those things that you're exploring to come to fruition for you.
This is such an interesting point, because I was speaking with someone this morning about how women in corporate settings in cities are reluctant to speak up about health challenges, particularly around midlife, because what if I'm seen as less than, or what if I'm judged, or what if my performance is viewed differently because of what I'm going through? And there's this stiff upper lip thing. I also wonder if there's this traditionalist influence, like my parents were 36 and 40 when I was born, and So they're the traditionalist generation, and I'm a Gen X, and I've got
Yeah.
baby boomer sisters, but their values were very much stiff upper lip and push on. And I wonder how much of it is also that compared to younger generations, Y and Z, who are now saying, hang on, I need mental health support, or hang on, I need this or that.
Yes. I think that's right. The allowing of self-compassion is one of those big elements that I work with my clients nowadays. And it is such a roadblock to finding a way through things. If we have this sense of, squash it down, leave it, get on with it. I'm not actually worth that much anyway. And that idea of allowing yourself to want more for your life and for what you share in your communities, and to go seeking that is a big part of my work. Yeah.
We dive into a little bit about some of the things that you're doing now. For example, I'd love to know if you can share anything about what do you think the causes of anxiety are? Because it's great to talk about how we support people, but it's also really important that we understand what drives anxiety for women in midlife. Understandably, there's the hormonal fluctuations that are part of it, and perhaps the identity challenge or shift that's part of that too. But what are some of those other factors, or the suite of factors that I suppose that influence anxiety?
I think the big changes that happen around the time of midlife, there is a huge amount going on with often care for elderly parents, which was certainly my case, and they were distant from me. So that isolation and travel to try and help manage that was big. Then you have more involvement with our young adult offspring. And again, with the isolation, that involved a lot of travel as well. And I do feel like that those factors can just mean that a woman can very easily just be literally, as the saying goes, sandwiched between that, and their needs get lowered down the priority list. So there can be a sense of, we'll pay it off later type thing, and deal with it later. But that can come to bite. So there is, and it's a bit, as you alluded to, it is a bit time and stage that can happen. I do think there is something in this whole space of anxiety around lack of control. And life is getting more and more like that, more and more uncertain, and more information overload. So we see so much that we think we should be responding to in the world, and in our own communities and in our own lives, that I think what can happen is that the lack of control of what's going on in the greater world around you can lead to looking at what can I control in my life now. And it's funny because it's like, yes, we're meant to have agency, aren't we? And agency is important, and that's no doubt about that. But what can happen with anxiety is this development of, well, if I control everything, all these little factors, all these little moving parts in my immediate world, then I will get rid of these terrible feelings of fear and of overwhelm and of panic that are circulating around. If I put more control in, then I will lock it up. I will shore it up and shore up my world and get rid of it. And I think there is that element is a big part of why anxiety is becoming more and more of an issue. Yeah.
Mm. As you were talking, that hit a nerve a little bit for me, particularly in the early stages of perimenopause. With over a 6-week period, every day it felt like there was a significant change happening in my body and mind, in my physiology.
Yeah.
And I felt helpless because I couldn't control that.
Yes.
And it was happening without my permission, and I was trying to ignore it, pretend it wasn't happening, deny it, get angry at it. And I just wasn't accepting it. And I had to reach the point of acceptance. And I find that when I speak to people about this, and a couple of people I've coached, it seems to take a year or more for people to go, okay, yeah. I'm going to stop fighting this process and let it happen.
Took me a lot longer than a year. You've done very well.
You can only, it's like if somebody dies, that's it. There's a line in the sand drawn. You have to accept that. You can't not accept that. And this is the same sort of thing. I wonder if the lack of knowledge and understanding of menopause and midlife challenges is what keeps us stuck. I wonder if we knew in advance what was coming, we would have the chance to mentally prepare for that.
Yes. Yes, I can really relate to that from my own experience. When I started going through perimenopause, I had no idea that's what I was going through. And I was going to the GP because I was having fluttery heart symptoms, and I was doing all the Holter monitors and all the checks for that. And turned out everything was fine, nothing wrong with my heart. So that's it, end of story. So there was no recognition at that time that these elements could be part of the perimenopause lead up. Perfectly fine to get checked for all those underlying possible causes. I wasn't complaining about that. But then the whole idea that what happened next? Nothing. There was nothing on offer. So that became an internalized thing. Oh, actually, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me in my head. And I think that can be a really challenging mismatch that can happen when health conditions aren't managed well, and that lack of understanding about perimenopause, and that even that anxiety is one of the top 3 symptoms that women experience in perimenopause. No, none of that was in my circle where I was, which was in a regional town in outback Queensland with a very competent GP. But she hadn't picked it. She didn't pick it up. And so that took a lot of years to work through and to undo some of that negative core beliefs that I'd created around that. Yeah.
That's such an important point, the negative core beliefs, because we get thoughts come into our head. We do millions and millions of reps of those thoughts, like going to the gym and doing 500 squats. You know, you do the reps and then you form a new belief based on those repetitive thoughts. And unless they're interrupted, dealt with, reframed, perspective gained, there's potentially a lot of work to unravel, I suppose.
Yes, that's right. And I think that can be a long process if some of those beliefs get formed at a critical, vulnerable time, which that's when they always form, of course. So it can just add to the complexity then if when you seek help, but through no ill intention, but the help isn't provided, that's where some of these things can really get complex, and where you need that professional help to work through it. It's not enough just to have some friends, good friends to talk to. Yeah.
So tell us a bit more about your work and maybe some main themes that you work around, or themes that come up, or approaches that you use, whatever you can share with us that doesn't compromise your intellectual property, of course, but just to get an understanding of what do we need to be dealing with if you're a midlife woman, you're going through anxiety, you're in a regional remote area.
I think the key elements that usually women come to me when they're feeling stuck, they don't quite know what it is they're experiencing, they just know something's not right, and they either come and start with massage or they come directly for coaching. And then it can be really, the coaching focus is helping women to learn to accept their imperfections. So I run a course called Imperfect Me, and that is all about learning to look at ourselves with compassion and to accept some of the less shiny parts of ourselves that we have been sort of thinking we have to fix, but looking at what they can teach us and allowing them to be the growing edge. So, and then with massage, and both massage and coaching, I make use of a lot of therapeutic touch, not just that I give, but teaching clients to give therapeutic touch to themselves. And that can be as simple as just when they're feeling tension, just to learn how to sit maybe with a hand resting on their shoulder and sending, warmth and love to that part of your body. It can be tapping into some self-compassion techniques with a hand on the heart and a hand on the belly, and just breathing into those spaces for a few moments and just accepting whatever comes up. So, yeah, it's pretty much working with that idea of helping to stop ourselves being severed at the head, where everything is operating up here. And for those people that are listening that have been struggling with anxiety or know people that have, the head space is like your head's a balloon. It's just so massively full and on runaway speed with thoughts. It's about trying to open that connection and get out of the head and into the body, and let the body sort of do a bit more leading of the way. So we do quite a bit of work in that embodiment space as well, and that self-acceptance. There's some of the key themes.
I love that. And especially, I think you're really talking to a lot of people here when you're talking about getting out of your head and into your body. I like that terminology myself, as somebody who's always thinking. And, as coaches, as educators, we have an intellectual job, a thinking job, more than a doing job. So we're used to spending time there, and then that becomes our modus operandi, to think through everything, and without actually tapping into the wisdom of your body, I suppose. Like, I know, for example, I've got clients that say, I'm feeling tired at the end of the day, and they don't realize they've been shallow breathing all day, chest breathing, like this at the computer, wound up, carrying on, hello kitty. What a beautiful cat.
Hello.
What's his name?
Large. Down you go.
Cute. I love a cat in the video.
That's right. Always a cat video. I think that's right. That sense of being able to pick up in the moment, what is my experience right now? What is going on in my body, and where am I feeling it? And the biggest one is, that's okay. That's okay to be feeling tight in the chest and clenched in the gut. It's not bad. It's not wrong. And to be able to just sit with it and breathe it through, and let it ease, because it will. And I think that, to me, is one of the biggest things we can learn for ourselves, is to have all the feelings and not push them away as wrong or bad. I only want the good ones, please. And same with the thoughts. I only want the good thoughts. Those other thoughts, they must be bad. So I've got to squash them or push them away. There's a lovely podcast I listen to called Mindful Music, and the clinical psychologist who runs that, she reminds us that our mind is a fabulous thinking machine. That's what it's designed to do. So when we get a thought, and it's maybe one that's challenging us, we just thank our mind, say, thanks, mind, and then unhook the key thing, unhook, and go back to where you want your attention to be. You don't have to beat it up. So I love that concept, and it's one that I use and teach all the time now. Thanks, mind, and then unhook. Yeah. So that sense that we collaborate with our thinking and with our body, and it's all allowed to be there. Yeah.
And as you're speaking about that, I'm thinking, yes, and the hard bit, and the bit that most people need help with, is developing that as a habit, the consistency in that behavior.
Yeah.
Because on your own, you go, oh, that's a great tool, I'm going to use that. Floop, it's gone. Or you remember it here or there inconsistently.
Yes.
As we were speaking earlier about the thoughts that you start to form, and the repetition of those thoughts creates the belief. Similarly here, the practice and the new thoughts are what people often struggle with, is that developing that as a behavioral pattern.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And that, to have someone to work with to lead you through that process and to help you embed it, and to give you to help you find your why you're doing it, I think is crucial. You're not doing it just to please that person that you're working with or because they said so and you're just feeling suggestible and vulnerable. It's about, well, of course, that taps into my values and what I believe to be important in my life. So that helps to set that sort of a train in motion of orienting that way to help those habits become more embedded. Yeah.
That support's so valuable because, as you said, we're talking about the sandwich generation here.
Yeah.
Mine's busy with parents and parent care, children, work responsibilities, household responsibilities, all of the things on the to-do list. Often that person themselves is not featuring on that to-do list. We learn to outsource our needs to other things like alcohol or screens or shopping or whatever it is. But actually, we need to find a way to meet ourselves where we're at, don't we? And stop just, as my dad used to say, stop the world, I want to get off. Like there's so much stuff happening. How do you step away from that hamster wheel and create the space you need for healthy mental processing and feeling?
And we can so easily feel that that's selfish, that we're, being selfish. But I think over the years with clients and with my own experience, you then actually have more to give because you are not operating from a scarcity mindset where you're just trying to grab little bits and pieces to hang on to and to savor these tiny little scraps. You're actually able to give more generously because you're feeling more filled, I guess. Yeah.
Mm. Gosh, there's so much to think about, isn't there? There's this, and funnily, I heard you use the word selfish. I've for the past few years had this position that we have this spectrum of selfish and selfless and nothing in between. And I think that's where self-love and self-care sits. That's the middle ground. And I would really love to change that narrative of people saying, oh, it's selfish to do blah, blah, blah. It's not. It's self-care to do that. It's self-love to do that.
That's it.
Selfish has that negative connotation that I shouldn't be doing that and there's guilt associated with it. I
course.
really think we need to change that language too.
Oh, I agree. And I don't know, I think as you grow and have lots of life experiences, you start to see some things that have happened in your life earlier on that have come about because you've operated from that place of not valuing your own self-care enough and made choices that have put others' needs ahead of yours in a way that has kept you very constrained. And looking on that, you can sort of see that. And that's also the other part of midlife that is the absolute joy and the gift of midlife is that sense of, hey, I've done a whole lot of stuff in my life and I know some shit now. And I know now from lived experience, which is such a solid place, isn't it? To say, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. No way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's this sense of, okay, it's time for me to redefine who I am.
Yeah. Yeah. And with all the challenges that come in this phase of midlife, that is the fantastic offering. That is the offering. If you're prepared to stop running, and that's certainly how I felt like it was for me. I was running from myself for so many years because myself, what was there chasing me was very scary, but it really was just me saying, hang on, wait, come back. And yeah, when we are prepared to stop and do some of this inner work, it's a very rich reward.
I agree, Amanda. I'm really pleased we've had this chat today, and I'd love to put some of your information in our show notes so people can reach out to you if they'd like to learn more about the work that you do and working with you, because I think we are in Australia in a mental health crisis, and I'm not being overly dramatic about that.
No.
And the opportunity is now this connectivity that we can get through the internet, through AI, through platforms And the opportunity then is to get people connected with the support that they need. And there's a spectrum of support. And as you said today, it's about slowing down, stop running, tapping into that mind-body awareness, that self-compassion, self-love, and rewiring some of those anxious thoughts so that you can feel calmer, perhaps more peaceful. How would people describe how they feel after working with you? Are they using words like calm and peaceful, or is it something else?
There's another word that often comes up in feedback is clarity. And that's an interesting one too. There's clarity and also a sense of confidence in their own decision-making capacity. And so there's some really big ones. I feel like I encourage my clients to do their own research in what supports them to be calm and centered and grounded, because that is so varied. But I encourage each client to find what it is that really starts to work for them and go further into that. So, and then that seems to mean that they're saying to me that what's come out of the time of working with me is this greater sense of clarity about what I want and this confidence in my own capacity to choose well for myself and be a good advocate and my own advocate. Yeah.
I love that, Amanda. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been a really great discussion, and I hope people listening have a sense of what's possible now.
Yes.
And if you're listening to this and you're remote or even not remote but feeling this way, then please connect with Amanda for some support.
Great. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks. I'll see you again, hopefully, on the podcast.
Sounds great.